Good evening and welcome to episode 12. Tonight we are continuing with the big animals, and I have 10 new images to process and to study. And as we can see here to begin with, it's elephants, and then moving on to rhinos and hippos and turtles or tortoises. So let's get started. I will have to make sure that my brush is the correct one, and we will add a layer for it and show the first one. So the first one is an elephant, and then zoom in so that we can see what we are doing. And once again, I'm kind of looking at the overall the overall shapes and trying to find a good starting point that I can measure the rest of the image from. So let's get started. Let's see. I'm inclined to maybe start with this this top. Oh, I have to select a thin brush to begin with when I'm laying in the first boxes in order to get the proportions correct. So that I lay it in with a thin brush so that so that it's not as visible later. So I'll start with this head part, and while it's not rounded as it is in the image, that's not really an issue right now, because as I said, I'm trying to get the overall proportions correct of the different parts, and once those have been laid in and I am satisfied with the proportions, then I'll continue with the actual sketch. And the sketching part is then faster because I don't have to measure as much as I would if I didn't do it in this fashion. So I know that the other exit of the tusk and the beginning of the trunk comes there, and I'm already seeing that this should be cut into here. There, and then I'm not worrying about the trunk right now. I will worry about these ears and getting them in the right size. So I'm noticing that it will probably be a little more than this, so it will go out to around here, outside of the camera. And then I look at the lines and how big they should be in order for these angles to come in. And it ends around here, right behind this, and then it goes up. And see, here I'm noticing that I'm too far down here compared to here, so something is amiss. And if we extend that, and let's see, that comes where this is. We extend this. And then extend it up. Now I'm hoping that the shape is more in line. There, roughly. So it's rough estimates, and of course at the time when I start the actual sketch, then that will be fixed even more. So again, here I'm noticing that this ear is going back in perspective, and then it goes all the way down to here. On this, it's a little bit curved, so I'll add that curve straight away. And it goes basically over. This is longer. So it goes basically over to the middle of that roughly. And then to there. And that ear seems a little bit small, so we will extend it maybe a little bit, and that will hopefully make it a little bigger. Since this is an African elephant, and African elephants, they are bigger than the Indian ones when it comes to the ears. And then behind here, the back goes not that far up. It goes to around here. And then down. Roughly like this. And then the eye is right in the middle of this one, so it would be here. And the eye can be seen on the other side, so that comes when I'm again when I'm doing the actual sketch. And this let's see, goes down even further down to here, and here starts the trunk, which I can now start adding, and it's roughly the same length as the head itself, so it would go down to here. Over here in the back. And then behind that we see a leg that goes down to roughly the bend here. So there's a leg and another leg. Actually, this is the back side, and then another leg here that goes a little further to around here. I'll start to make a little more definition on this ear. still seems like really big. I'll probably only go to here. So we got some of the ear away. And then some of the leg. And then behind the ear we can see some of the stomach. Go to here and the hind part of the animal. So it has very long legs, which is surprising. And here we can see a little bit of this leg. And then I will quickly draw in where the tusks are. It's roughly there. Roughly here. The other eye. And yeah. So this still seems a little wrong. So we'll fix that. And I have actually managed to once again start without the timer. So like last time, I'm going to spend around, no, it's going to be a little more than half an hour, because now I'll start there. And now I'm measuring whether this face is correct. If we say that the eye is here and the other one is here, yeah, then we'll be pretty okay. And this one goes a little further back and down. And now I'll see, is it going too far up? No, but this one is. There. Okay, now we can start on the actual sketch. So I will up the size. And then we'll start. So it looks a little bit weird right now, but hopefully we will manage to fix that. So first we will look at this part. So it goes on an angle here. And then it's not completely edged has a little bit roundness to it, and then it meets up with this forehead and then goes backwards and up to here. And then to here, and then we can't really see the rest of that because the ear comes and it has like these big muscles in it in order for it to move the ears, and they're attached there. So now we'll rotate it a little bit. Let's get it in so that I can reference it. And then we don't see what is here, but we are just assuming that it rounds out there. Like that. And then we have let's make this now. So it goes here, and then it does this rounding. And then meets up here. Up here after the muscle, we start seeing the skull again. And it has this this curve down, and then it curves again down to the mouth section and the beginning of the trunk. And the beginning of the trunk comes, and that is curved as well. And it goes all the way down here in these segments that are huge folds. And that's then where the trunk starts. Let's see, the trunk actually goes in a little bit, not too much. And then it starts going out again. And I'm already adding these sections that are gonna be there. Let's see, becomes more sectioned, and it starts curving outwards like this. And then behind that we have this silhouette of the trunk that moves into the trunk muscles. And it has kind of like this extra outwards curve due to the muscles in the trunk. And here it has a nice curve up. As it goes over to the other side of the trunk. There. And then we will start looking at this here. Let's see, now goes more equal and then up and around. Yeah, roughly. And here there was this kind of scar into the ear. It's probably been bitten off. And it makes actually like this small indentation here and then continues down. And it's all of these small imperfections that are making it be what it is. You can see a little bit of the upper eyelash or upper eye and very little of the eye itself. And then this top part that goes in behind the ear. And the other top part which bends down. And then we have this thick indentation where the eye comes. And then the eye itself. Let's see, that's around. And it then loops down underneath. And then the eye itself. So the eye itself, it's not actually as big as the as it would appear, due to the fact that there is there is all of these wrinkles around where the eye is. And I'll add now actually these eyelashes, because it looks really bare here when they're not there. And I'm not liking this top part. Nor am I liking this, because there's this almost, it looks feminine in that way because of those eyelashes. And this is more straight in some way. And then underneath, so I'm spending like a little extra time on this now that I had extra time, because as I've said before, the eye gives character, and I think it's actually placed too far up, so we will move it down. Let's try that again. So what? There. Move it down. Let's see the ending of the. So this one is actually a little bit in there. And there is these wrinkles here going, and they help kind of explain the form. Okay, and then for this ear, here where that ends, there comes these ear muscle things, like it's basically where the attachment is. And there is a clear shadow here. That goes down, so I'll add that in straight away. And that shadow continues because of the shape of the skull down here, basically, and then we can see a few of these eyelashes sticking out in the So I have to warn, I haven't, as you can probably see, I haven't warmed up beforehand today. So it will usually take 1 or 2 sketches before I'm warm. This goes kind of like down here. There. Okay. And that's the only shadow so far that I will work on. No, actually, I'm going to work on this shadow as well. So that's in shadow. Okay. And then we can add this tusk. And we can add the other tusk as well. Yeah. Let's get rid of this line. We need to work a little more on this ear. So as I said, there isn't like a direct line there on the because it's not attached on its own. There is a big fault here that I'll correct. Again, these ridges, they describe the form, so we will add some of those. Just a little, so that we know what we're talking about. Like that. And then we'll add a shadow here due to this being in shadow, and likewise here. And now we have 9 minutes left, so I have to hurry up a little bit, which means because there is still a lot here that has to be worked on in order for it to actually look like remotely like the picture, especially once I start looking at the shadows, then there will have to be some adjustments. So let's mow through it. Here we go down, and then it goes out a little bit. And so the leg, we just basically put a box, and now it's time to refine that. And we can see here that it's in shadow on this side, so I will add a little bit extra line weight on that side, and that will help with the shadow. And then this comes behind here, and this should also have bigger line weight in order to help with the shadow. And then there is a shadow that comes from here, and it defines like how the leg is formed. So it's important to get it at least a little bit correct, because otherwise thanks for coming. And oh my god, Jesus, a host. Yeah, so I am actually very focused due to the fact that I only have 7 minutes left to finish this one. So the format of this show is that I have half an hour to do a sketch of each week. It's a different thing that I'm sketching, and this week it is big animals that do not have fur. So elephants, hippos, rhinoceros, and tortoises mainly, because they have these cool leathers that that would be cool to learn how to draw. And last week it was insects, and next week it will be buildings, where I get back into some perspective drawing. And now we have 5 minutes left roughly, so I'll try and bang this out as fast as possible. We know here that they that they have kind of like these nail areas, and the back leg seems a little bit too thin, so I will now, when I go through it again, I will fix that, and this should be thicker, this front leg, since there is this this leather flap that comes in front, and that makes this angle correct as well. And here is the underside, and then the back leg can't be seen again, but we, because of the grass, but we can kind of just add it there. And 4 minutes left. Yeah, it takes like some getting used to, due to the, like someone is saying, when I try using one of those touchscreens, things gets worse than on paper, and it's true to begin with. It's because there is this parallaxing. You can't really see it on the stream, but when I put my pen down, there is probably like 5 millimeters between the actual screen and the pen, because there is a piece of glass in between. And once you have used it for a while, then you don't notice it anymore. You kind of know where the pen is going to be drawing compared to where it is. And it's still better than one of the normal screens, I think, or not normal screens. One of the normal tablets from, for example, Wacom. That I have had some of those as well, and the disconnection between what you're drawing and looking up and seeing is too big, I think. Or I find, at least. So I actually tried originally. I bought like a 13-inch screen like Cintiq, but it was way too small. So I convinced my wife that I needed one of these. Okay, and the rest here, the last 2.5 minutes, I will actually probably have to do these lines. I'll quickly go over the shadows here because otherwise it doesn't really make sense. But after that, it is just the texturing in the leather. So I have to do this fast. It's amazing how fast time goes. Let's see. There is a shadow here, and then the tusk is causing a shadow. And it goes up here roughly and then over. And again, these shadows, they're really important in order to get the shapes correct. Since it's just a sketch and not a picture, you can't see the nuances in the coloring. So you are left with only what is hidden and what is shown to define the object and its form. On 32 seconds. I might spend a few extra minutes just getting this done, because I think the texture of the skin, especially in the trunk, is really important. There's a shadow here. Yeah, okay. So if I now start on the trunk area here, this is in shadow, which helps push back some of the eye area, and here. And my time is up, so I'll really have to get cracking. So I should also be careful not to destroy it too much, of course. These cross sections, I have to rotate. So I'm laying down this side first. Now I can see the reference. Yeah. Because in the middle there is this these big muscles, which is why it goes a little over. There is this section in just add a few of them, and that will hopefully be enough indication that it's there. And they're not completely straight either, these. So I'll have to add a little bit of change in the how it is. That would basically be how I would do it all the way up. And then up here there is some like that, and then some of them are here, and some goes here and here, and then there is these streak lines as well. Now I could spend a million years on that, but I think we will just say that is about it for that one. And a little bit of shadow here, just so that we know that it's still that back leg. Okay, so that was the first one, and the next one is another one of these. So I will actually take a break before continuing on this one. So be right back. And I'm back. Okay, so let's get started on this one. And this time, let's actually try and start the timer. So we are moving again to a 3 brush for the initial sketch or the initial laydown. And I'll start with the ear and then work from there, because it's a good measurement tool for where the rest of the things should be and the proportions of those things. So I'm keeping an eye all the time on whether things match up here. Like for example, this mouth goes up to here, but it actually goes a little further, like there. And then the tusk area comes in over, and the tusk is here. It's more rounded. And then the nose, or the trunk, sorry, this goes up because it comes in front of the other things, like it's sticking out. And then the trunk goes in and spins around here. Now I'm working on this line, and then I'll add the line behind it afterwards. And it goes up into the end part there. And here it comes on a low angle and then works over to a big angle, due to it being in foreshortened in perspective. And then, as I said, now then the back part here cuts in over behind. Like that. And the eye would be, see, this goes up to roughly here. This goes in as the tusk becomes smaller, or where it grows, and then the eye section that goes up into here. Like this, and then underneath, like further down than expected, the eye will be. And now I'm measuring whether I'm having these angles correctly. I'm seeing that this one should be a little more on an angle, and then the mouth that was here, and then there is a big groove, or some big grooves here, and here where it goes over, we again see some of the chin, and this goes further up and then comes around here instead. And this is more like this. There. And then we start on the back here. And now we have this whole thing to measure the rest of the proportions with. So this is more of a, like that. So here's the top of the front bone, where the bone is connected. And then there is like this groove down to where the tail basically starts, and then it cuts over as well. And one and a half, one. So around here it will end. And it comes up and goes around. And then it goes down into what I guess normally we would consider the tail. And behind that we can see the bone again. And there is like this indentation, and here starts an indentation as well. That should actually go behind this bone, so this bone has to be moved up a little bit. And then it comes down. And here in the back it makes this and then the leg in front. And that leg in front goes down to around here before it starts bending. Downwards into the water. So it should actually go even further down here into the water. So here's the water line, and then it goes up again, and now we have to check the proportions of this, how far that leg is compared to everything else. So it is roughly this big. Wait, no, we will add the rest here. Then it will automatically come. So here is the front leg, and let's see. We can make a. If this is where that one starts, it goes all the way up roughly to here compared to this one. That means that this goes to here roughly, and then it turns because it's taking a step. and the last part is on a even greater angle. And then it goes to here, so it comes. So I'm all the time measuring these small things compared to each other, like where they fit. And let's see, I spent 10 minutes, so now this leg looks way too thick. So I will start from the bottom instead and try and get that angle like that, and then up to here, and then let's see, it should still be on an up to here, and this should also, let's see, down, should be here instead. I might have to adjust that when I'm doing the actual sketch. This goes further up. And around here it starts to bend from here and up. Now in this sketch there comes this part that is dynamics as well, so I have to be very careful that things line up in the correct places, because otherwise it will look like the animal is out of balance. I think the stomach is right around there, and then the back leg goes not completely, but almost as far as the other ones, because it's very close to being in profile. And it goes to a little above this, sticks out, and then goes down roughly there. And then the hind leg in the end, which will add the dynamic aspect I was talking about. So it rounds to here, and then goes on a pretty steep angle here, and the waterline is all the way down here, so it will be around. So it's kind of like a little of a guessing game until things they line up. There, and then it kind of like, well, that's too big a bend. It's more like this. And there is a family jewel here. And then the tail comes in from there, and it goes all the way down here where this hair ends the tail. And again, I have to make sure that the tail flows, because otherwise it looks unnatural. It's a little too thin here, there. How does this work? There. Okay, so 15 minutes left, and now I can up the size of my brush and start the actual sketching. I'm just checking over it really quickly again, just to make sure. Okay, so let's get started. So this goes actually a little bit up because it's part of the ear, and it goes down here, and then it goes a little bit almost straight on an angle. There is only a little bit of a bend, and then it goes down. And now we come to these parts that they're usually pretty rough in the way that they are, like they're not really that many straight lines. And here it goes in a little bit like this, and then it goes here in front of this cheekbone, and then there is a bend here that then goes down to, and there is a little bit of a shadow here as it goes in behind. And then there is a little bit of shadow here as this goes in behind the ear. And then the top of the head is a little bit, is slightly rounded, and then it's more straight than I had drawn, and it's a little more on an angle. And there's then the eye section. It continues down here, but then this cuts in over. Like that. And then the actual eye, we know that the eye itself is small, and then there is these rings around the eye, almost like a tree, rings in a tree. There is a slight shadow here, since this is not completely round. There is these indentations in the skull. And here is a big one that no, we won't actually draw those yet if I have time, but there's only 10 minutes left, so let's continue on the trunk, and it is ruffled as the leather skin compresses in order to draw it up. And then here's a little bit of shadow where it goes in behind this tusk. And the same for here in front of the tusk. And then the tusk comes here. And we can see a little of the tusk behind that one, or on the other side as well. There. And this part is in shadow of that one. And the lower part of this one is in shadow. And then there is this water splash that makes it impossible to see what is happening behind that, and we do not have time to draw the water splash, unfortunately. Water splash could actually be a study on its own at some point, I think, how water behaves in light. And then there is this ruffle again, up into the end of the tusk, the end of the trunk, sorry, tusk, trunk. And again, start with this ruffle. And then there was this on the back side. And since this goes in over, then we will make that thicker to indicate that the other one is behind it. And the touch is starting to act up. And then add some texturing here quickly for that part, since some of it is in shadow and some is in highlight. Okay, and then the lower part of this mouth, you can see a little bit of an open mouth. And then the rest here, and let's see. Just fix this a little better so that it's more visible. And that was the lower part of the mouth, and then there. So there is a split up between the actual mouth and this this tusk. and the top side of the back. And then the start of the hind back. That goes into the tail. And the crown jewels. And this hip bone, I guess it would be. And then the back, which I'm making ruffled again because it's the leather is going in on itself. Hold on. And then the waterline. And the leg. No. And again, this and the lower part of the belly, which is actually quite rounded in the lines. I made it a little too skinny. There. And then the back leg. Let's see, to around here. So the measurements are not always completely correct, and some of it is fixed on the fly. So for example, this part is not nearly as on as big an angle as the end part here. And again, waterline. Seems just too bad. Yeah. And then this, the front of the back leg. Which actually goes in a little and then out a little, and then it starts to curve up. And oh, we're like almost out of time. But again, I actually sometimes spend a little extra on them in order to make them better. And here there is some water splash, which I will draw. Due to the fact that that it's in motion. Yeah. And as you can see, my time has expired, but I'm going to spend a little extra time on it. It was here, goes down, and there is this splash. And here. So the reason I'm adding this these splash lines is that it has just put the foot down, so and this seems a little wrong. It should be more on an angle here because of the muscle definition. And now I'll quickly look at shadows. So there is a shadow here that gives form, and behind here and it continues, so it has that back line that I was drawing before. And then the back legs should be in shadow. Not only should they, but I always add the shadow on the back leg just to make a separation. Yeah. And then the other back leg. And then I think that's it for this one. Maybe just a squint of a shadow here. And here. There. And underneath this ear. It helps explain that the ear is in front. Yeah, I promise that's it. Just this. And a few. See, once I get started, I really have issues stopping again. Yeah. Okay, that's it for that one. Except there's some little bit here. Yeah. Then I will make a new layer, and let's check the next one. Ooh, a turtle. Or a tortoise, actually. I'll just quickly drink a little. Hold on. So this one, I will start there. This one I will start with, first of all, the brush should be smaller. I'll start again with making these kind of bounding boxes for the whole thing. That helps with getting the proportions correct. So while it should be bounding boxes, I find that I just can't help myself with starting to add at least some of the bigger parts. It's a real issue that I have. See, I'm already starting with cuts and stuff. So that will be the head, roughly. And then we will add for the neck it goes in on itself and down, and here goes in a little and then down, in. So we know that there's going to be a curve here, which is why I block that out, because it's easier to make the curve once you know where to go. And where the curve roughly in the middle is where the leg comes. And they have pretty big legs. So this goes down here, and then that's where the other leg comes in over. I don't know if this now makes any sense for you, but this becomes the leg. So you know, when I add this part and then this part, so that's this curve, and this is obviously this top part, and now I'll have to add this part, which is why I added this, because now we know that the leg comes out from here. And then it goes down a little and down a little again, but this is on a curve here. And then finally there is this end part, which is the lower part of the leg. And this is way too long, we can see. So it goes down here. That is probably correct. And then this curves here, so it should actually end there instead. So I will take my lasso and then I will move this part. I could have added it again, but I'll just move it there. That means this is removed. Okay, and then the rest of the leg is there. Below that there's the shell. So this is then the bottom part of the shell. And then there is this connective tissue around the shell. Here. And since it's in perspective, then we will have to change that angle a little bit there. And then this actually, it goes on an angle forward. And then here is the lower end of the shell. That's where we start adding actually the leg first, because that's the measurement for how long this is. So we will add that here. And then now I'll make the curve anyways. See, can't help myself. And roughly here. It goes out of frame here. So we know that this then bends in on itself here. And that means that this end of the bottom of the shell can be seen here. And then it turns around like so. You can see a little bit here, and then it becomes more of the lower part of the shell that then finally meets up this leg around here. So I did a quick correction on the leg because it was too much on an angle. Yeah, so now we have this top shell, and we have this, and then we can add some of the belly. Which is too far down. So I'm looking at the length between here of the end and where the end of the shell is. So it would be roughly here. And let's move it over because we have well, we don't have that much more on this shell, but there is a little bit here, like that. And then the top of this housing comes here. And then there is it bends down and it comes in on an angle here and continues in one line. And goes to here. Is that correct? Yes, roughly. And it's more on an angle because of, again, the way that the foreshortening works. And then we can see the connection between the shell and the turtle meat, so to speak. And here, no, I'm not doing those yet. And here is the top of the shell, and then that continues up to around here. Let's see, it ends around this area. So we know it makes that, and then it goes down on an angle to a set point, and then it curves down quite a bit to the end. Now, let's see, then we have this, comes down even further here. Where does it stop? It stops an angle from there, so it goes a little further down. And it creates this barrier here. So again, I'm looking at all of these measurements compared to each other. And now we can start on the actual thing with 17 minutes to go. So we will do that. I have made the brush bigger, and now I'll start filling in. So I'll start from the top here. Say this goes on a angle, and then it cuts in over, and again the nose cuts in over and goes down. In a roughly straight line, and then it bends over, and here we would have the start of the mouth, and that goes, we can add like some nostrils now. Here there's one here and one that is almost round here, and then there's an area here that is in shadow, and that means that that's actually where the eye is going to be. So we won't see the eye because of the angle. It's just kind of like this this blob, and that means that we know that this now is the center line, and it goes down here, and it, let's see, splits up should be bigger. Why is it not? And then this one. I have to add a little extra here in order for the measurements to fit. Let's see. So there in the middle it makes this rounding. And then the mouth comes in behind it. And likewise here it cuts back. And now we can add, this is a little bit bigger, and so is this one. Now we can add the eye. Which would be here. And as always, I will finish the eye straight away because it adds character. And then there is a shadow, right? It kind of like goes down here, and the top line of the mouth, kind of like the lips, are coming here. I feel like this should be moved a little. So we will move it a little. There. Just because we can. There. Okay. And then the underside of the mouth, which we had practically already drawn here. Comes here, and then the neck comes and let's see. So we have 11 minutes left, and that means that we'll have to speed it up a little bit now. So I will finish the rest of this this head area, and then move towards the other parts, and then in the end we will try and see if there's time for some shadows. Actually, it's here. It makes this line. This is in shadow. There. here and disappears into shadow. And here, now we are coming to this rounding that I was talking about. And since I had those bounding boxes to work from, that was pretty simple. There. Nine minutes. Then the top of this leg I will draw first before the shell behind it, since it's on top of, so it will be easier to get correct when, like this back part, when that one is already there. And here we will let's see, make it a little further out, and then it's more on a steep curve here, like this. And here we see this part that I wanted to draw straight away, where there is kind of like a groove that has been made, or a hole. Like that. And then again there is the same type there, and then this shell comes. And here it actually goes further up and then down. And that makes it look like more as if it's going in on itself. This we don't need. There. And then here was the split between the actual turtle and the shell. And let's see what else. Then we had this lower line, and then there was a rounding, and then another rounding, and then the end. This rounding, we can't see it, but it goes up like this, and here is like something. I think it's actually a nail, but can't be sure. And then the shell that we were talking about earlier is it kind of like goes in over itself here, like if it's two different parts that are connected, and then there is the connection between them. this, and then from that comes the outer shell, and this inner connection of the shell. And then the front leg, again, since we have this rounding, we basically know already how that should be looking. It is more rounded. It's because that one was a little too much on the, like, that's not as incorrect, let's say it like that. And there is actually some of the back of this this neck that can be seen there. And then there is like this big groove here, which we should see if we can get correct. I'll worry about it when I get to it. So the leg comes here, and then the top part of this leg goes over into a nail, that is rounded, and there is some nail behind here as well. Which means this would go in over, and then we can see the rest. And here is a interesting part because it's very round, and then there is a fold here. This fold is more like that, like more angular. And there is a fold here as well. And then it meets up there. And hold on. And then the lower part here of this the shell that then goes up into this and disappears. And you can see a little bit of the back leg, but really not a lot. Probably like that, roughly. And here it has this shell pattern. And then it goes up into this 27 seconds, Jesus. Up into this shell, and the lower part can be seen here as well. And I will add some details because I basically didn't have time to. So here and here will be a shadow. And then there will be one underneath here. This area is kind of rounded. That is too far. It's here. It goes in a little bit. There. And then let's see, that's the lower part, so there will be again a shadow. And then there is these. It's an old turtle apparently. There's these veins that gives definition. And now the timer has expired, so I will basically just quickly plug in some shadows. And then that will be it for today, I think. So tomorrow we are continuing, and since it's Wednesday, it will be one of the longer days. Where I aim to do 10 of these sketches. And as always, you are more than welcome to join. In June, the 1st of June, I will look at the people that has been spending time in my channel, and I will make a draw, like a competition draw between those, and whoever wins I will contact, and live on stream I will make them a profile picture, or a not a sketch but a portrait painting that they, if they choose to, can use as their profile picture. And I think that's about it with the announcements. So basically, in order to enter the competition, for every half an hour spent in my channel while I'm live, you will be provided with a single ticket, and then I will do a lottery and contact the winner, and then I will be drawing live the portrait. Let's see. I think, okay, I have to add this top line, but then that's it. After adding shadow here. Just can't help myself. Let's see. And here. There. Okay, thank you all for coming, and thank you to Electrical Longboard for the hosting tonight. Much appreciated. And thanks to everyone who commented while I was drawing. And thanks to everybody who was lurking as well. Hope to see you tomorrow evening, and have a wonderful evening. Or morning if you're in a different country. Thanks and bye.